This audio session combines Sadhguru's speeches with binaural beats technology. Please use headphones and listen carefully. This audio can enlighten you.
See, when you were 16, 18, you had wild dreams as to what you want to do with your life. By the time you became 25, you cut down all the frills and thought, this is all not practical, I am becoming practical now. All that happened is you were becoming a coward, but you said, I am becoming practical, and cut down many things and said, if I get a job, if I earn my living, this is okay. By the time you're 35, you're thinking, if I don't get into any trouble, that's enough. You're not looking forward into anything great happening. If I don't get into trouble, that's enough. But that's when you start getting into trouble So, you're not looking at life with zest, you're looking at life as safety. The more security-oriented you are, the more disturbed you will be with every change that happens in your life. The essence of physical existence is change, isn't it? Isn't it so? Everything is changing. Is there anything that's not changing? Everything in the existence is changing, isn't it? The physical existence is constantly changing. The very essence of physical reality is change. Nothing is constant. Even the so-called static states are dynamic in nature, everything is changing. So if you resist change, you are resisting life. If you want an unchanging life, there's one beautiful place where nothing changes, that's your grave. Either you must go to your grave or you must get enlightened if you don't want change. Then somewhere inside everything is same. But otherwise, as long as you're a part of the physical process of the existence, everything is change, there is nothing that is not changing. See, this moment you're inhaling, next moment you're exhaling, it's change, isn't it? If you don't want change, you stop it. So when you resist change, you must understand you're resisting the very process of life, not just your life, you're resisting the very fundamental process of life. Invariably, you will invite all kinds of suffering. If you're living and you want to be dead, you will ask for trouble, isn't it? You must be living. When you're living, you must live totally. If you want to die, you must do that efficiently. These are inefficient ways of killing yourself, really. Unhappiness and depression are inefficient ways of killing yourself, isn't it so? So, you need to understand this. Once you resist change, you're resisting the whole process of life and you will create unnecessary suffering. So once you resist change, depression is a natural process. Frustration, when change happens, frustration, depression. Frustration and depression, these two are the best of the devil's tools. If you want to destroy your life, frustration, you start with frustration, develop into depression. You're there. There's nothing worse than that. You'll work against yourself. And the moment you resist change, frustration is natural. Once frustration comes, it'll naturally evolve into depression. So, you put it on sale.
Now once we realize somehow survival process is not good enough, there seems to be a need to do something more. Immediately, a whole industry, which we call as religion and spirituality, sprung up. All kinds of people trying to tell you what you need to do to fulfill your life, or how you can never fulfill your life but you have to go to heaven. This has taken on so many forms, so many, and The diversity is wonderful, but the deception is quite shameful. In the name of religion, in the name of believing this or that, we have broken humanity into so many pieces that we can never fix it. It almost looks like we can't fix it. No? And then came the spiritual leaders. There have been some truly wonderful, absolutely incredible masters of past and present. But at the same time, too many of all kinds of different levels of ignorance and different levels of intention has grown into it. There's all kinds of deception in the world. But the religious and the spiritual kind is the grossest kind, unfortunately. It becomes extremely important to present the spiritual process in its proper light for what it really is. Spiritual process is just this: a deeper involvement with life, much deeper than people would ever imagine. Not just living the surface, living the core. This is not some bull that you read in some book. This is not some nonsense that you received from somewhere. This is going to the very core of life. And you cannot go to the core of life unless you are willing to pay attention to the detail of life. Nothing in the existence will yield to you unless you pay attention to it, isn't it? Yes? Nothing ever yields to you unless you pay attention to it, isn't it so? And nothing ever cannot yield to you if you pay enough attention to it. The creation and the creator has to yield to you if you pay substantial attention to it. So, if you are willing to pay substantial attention to something, everything will yield. And there is nothing in the existence which cannot yield if you pay enough attention to it. So spiritual process is just about paying attention to life, taking this attention deeper and deeper, where not just the creation, the very source of creation becomes a living reality for you. Even the source of creation has to yield. There are beautiful stories in India about how when a yogi or a rishi sits down and starts his penance or his meditation or something, God is just helpless. He doesn't want to yield, but he cannot do anything, he has to come. There are many stories like this. This is just to tell you, if human consciousness is substantially focused, even the source of creation cannot deny it to you. Even that has to yield. So this is a choice we have, either to exist here just as flesh and bone, as a piece of creation, or as the Creator Himself. This is the choice we have. When you exercise this choice, when you do not waste this choice, when you actually exercise this choice, then we say you're on the spiritual path. I cannot understand how anybody cannot be on the spiritual path, because this is everybody's aspiration. Everybody wants to be something more than what he is right now, isn't it so? That something more happens, he wants to be something more. This is a spiritual path conducted in a foolish way. If you conduct it the right way, then it produces results. Otherwise, you will die as an aspiration. Most people die as an aspiration, unfortunately. Very few people die as a realization. An aspiration is good as a starting point, but an aspiration is not a good thing as an ending point, isn't it so? Yes. An aspiration is a good thing as a starting point. An aspiration is not a good thing at the closing point. Closing point should be realization. Beginning point is aspiration, that's okay.
The potentiality of being human is just this. As I said, every creature has captured a certain amount of consciousness, but what they capture is not significant enough to become conscious of our consciousness where we can begin to expand this. Other creatures also conscious, but they cannot expand this. So the reason why an individual human being may feel trapped in their own limited ways is simply because they're super identified with their memory. So one of the first steps in yoga is always this, that you start identifying with your ignorance, never with your knowledge. Because your knowledge, it doesn't matter how vast it is a minuscule in this cosmos. But our ignorance is boundless. First and foremost thing is you do not identify with your knowledge. That means you do not identify with your accumulated memory. Accumulated memory on a superficial level may be just what I learned. But on a deeper level, it is my genetics, it is my evolutionary memory, it is all the different dimensions of memory. We do certain things with people so they become free from their genetic memory as far as possible. Except for the physiological factors, we want them to be released from their parentage. This is the purpose. The entire Eastern cultures were focused on this, now it's all messed up, people have forgotten this. Otherwise, one thing is, we are always seeing how to distance ourselves from the genetic memory, because we saw that if you're identified with your genetic memory, you will just be a replay of your parents' life. You will not be a fresh life. If you want to be a genuinely fresh possibility, you have to distance yourself. There are many types of processes through which we distance ourselves from genetic memory. You must see this, it's so dramatic in the sense, in 24 hours' time, the human being changes completely, the very way they think, feel, understand and perceive life. With some of them, even their facial features will change. Suddenly they look different within 24 hours' time. The change is so dramatic, so that your functionality is not limited to your genetics, that you are not a copy of the parents who produced you. Yes, they have given you a body, they have nurtured you to a certain adulthood, after that their business is done. Now your business is to become a totally new potential of life, that's what it is. But this will not happen, you will see this happening with people. When they were 16, 18, they're very rebellious about how they want to be. But you watch the same people after they're 45, they're behaving just like their parents. They walk like them, sit like them, talk like them, everything coming back, catching up with them. Because the genetic memory overpowers the initial desire and exuberance of youth. Once it begins to recede, you will see you start behaving just like your parents, because the genetic memory overpowers you. So one of the first fundamental things that if one is striving towards becoming more conscious is to distance yourself from your genetic memory. If that doesn't happen, the power of this memory is not simple. To put it very simply, in today's world it's easy to explain, because it's your software. It's not the brand of the computer that you're using which decides what happens on the screen. It's your software. What is the software? That's how it functions. So your memory is software. You have a certain kind of software, unless you disengage with that, nothing new will happen. You try whichever way you want, the same things will happen. Over and over again, the same things will happen. When same things happen, slowly This is not a conscious process, but it's happened to nearly 98% of the human population because the exuberance of life has sank because of the repetitiveness of memory. The same things are happening, you may not be conscious of it, but the same things are happening. When same things are happening within you, slowly you lose all your exuberance. Only if something new is happening. Now people think something new means they must fall in love, they must take up a new job. That's not it. Something new needs to happen within you, in the very mechanics of who you are. If something new is happening all the time, you will be exuberant. Otherwise, without knowing why, slowly your face has become grave. Your face has become grave means you're practicing the posture for the grave.